Hello and welcome to the Lockdown World Press Review. Let's start with Le Monde, which leads on the Government Scientific Council appeals for a prudent lifting of the lockdown, and the government will unveil its plans on Tuesday. The Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, its English version, has a rather interesting lead story, an article jointly penned by British and a German top parliamentarians, Time for a German-British Friendship Treaty. We'll see how that catches on. The Corriere della Sera in Italy maintains in its analysis column, coronavirus without the lockdown in Italy, there would be around 600,000 cases and only 200,000 recoveries if it weren't for the lockdown. The New York Times is, of course, embroiled in its long-running battle with President Trump, who hates the New York Times, and it seems to be pretty much mutual. Here are three articles which give you that sense of things. Coronavirus and the price of Trump's delusions is one. The curious incident of no dog in the White House. I suppose that means nobody barking any kind of warnings. And Frank Bruni, injections of bleach, beams of light. Trump is self-destructing before our eyes. Well, that's certainly what they'd like, I'm sure. Moscow Times, independent of Putin's government, Russia sees record one-day rise in coronavirus cases, bringing total to over 80,000. The Global Times in China, which is very much the voice of the regime, has a pretty fierce editorial which talks about crushing Washington's lies. Trump is scapegoating China for US failure at reining in the coronavirus, and this has poisoned the international opinion atmosphere, it says. Then we'll go on to India, where the Pioneer newspaper, which I used to write for, says the COVID-19 death toll rate rises to 826. I mean, it's far less than you might imagine would happen in India. And it says Delhi saw fewer COVID cases and deaths this week. So quite good news from there. The South China Morning Post in Hong Kong has even better news. No new COVID-19 cases recorded in Hong Kong for the third time in a week. But you've only got to cross over to the Straits Times in Singapore to find a very different and more worrying picture. 931 new cases. Experts say it's too early to say Singapore has turned the corner. In Japan, where the situation is more serious, 10 emergency care facilities across Japan restricting admissions due to pandemic. Japan much closer to other Western countries than to the Far Eastern area, countries that surround it. And let's finish off in South Africa with the City Press. They've carried out some research which indicates that 1 in 5 people think they're seriously in danger, but they quote Cyril Ramaphosa, the president's 500 billion rand coronavirus plan. Can it work? It says, and I think they think it can. They quote him as saying, "We shall recover, we shall overcome, we shall prosper." Cyril Ramaphosa is one of the relatively few leaders who's come out of this whole crisis looking rather good. And so let's end our World Press Review on a slightly upbeat note. Thanks very much, and until we meet again, goodbye.